We're going to see how long you can hold that handstand. Hi folks, I'm Matt and welcome to My Expanded Universe, a show where I go through the entire EU in chronological order as best I know how. Wow, this is a video that I have been getting requests for months. Ever since I said I'm starting the Clone Wars, I think the first person said, so Shatterpoint's next? Shatterpoint, no. There's a lot of stuff now that comes out through Shatterpoint due to the, what's it called? The different timeline. You had to stretch the timeline out a little bit. So this is where I would place Shatterpoint, written by Matthew Stover. Do I even have to introduce this book? Let's do it. All right, so Mace goes to his home world, Harun Kal, and he's trying to stop a civil war. And after all this, he's going to wonder, what's becoming of the Jedi? What are we turning into after the Clone Wars? Depa Billaba is in it. She was a Jedi who was in Episode 1 and not really seen that much afterwards. You don't see her in Episode 3. So they kind of explain in this story, Matthew Stover does, about where she could be. You're thinking, well, wait, if she's still in the council, what's going on? What happened to her? This story kind of solves that for you because there's a mystery. She's gone and disappeared on the planet. So Matthew Stover, let's talk about him. He's a fan favorite. A lot of people love him. And I think this was his first book, I believe, he wrote within the Expanded Universe. And I was happy to see it, A, because it was Mace Windu. And we didn't know much about Mace Windu at this point. And this book actually goes into his past. Talks about his upbringing, young boy and stuff like that. So that part was good. But the part that I didn't like was what I call the Dear Diary moments. The first person, the making his own journal. And it seemed about 50% was his own journal, his own thoughts and whatnot, and then 50% was the adventure. And I didn't like that mesh of storytelling. It's just not for me. Folks, first person was popular way back in the day. I mean, you look at Dracula, Frankenstein, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. A lot of them, you're reading their journal, right? And they're talking in first person. Well, these days, I think that's an old hat. I think they need to switch and do something else. Just like I hated Timothy Libbins from Dawn of the Jedi, his odd third person perspective. I despise that. I don't really like the first person. Now that being said though, this book did have a lot of connections within the Expanded Universe. For instance, Matthew Stover mentions some of Mace Windu's stuff from the Star Wars Republic novels, Emissaries to Malastare. Remember, that was the only time we'd really seen some Mace, and I told you it just didn't feel like enough. Well, Matthew Stover connects that and grows, Mace Windu's background story. Also, another connection, Nick, what's his name? Postu? I can't remember right now. He's one of the main characters in it. He is actually mentioned later on. He comes back in another series, Coruscant Nights, in the I think it's Jedi Twilight. So he gets mentioned again. So there is that connection in the story through Shatterpoint. So it does share a lot of continuity like all Star Wars books do. However, I'm going to go against the grain and say I did not like this book. Now, hold your angry comments for a minute. Remember, I don't like first person. And I didn't like how it was back and forth first person. That was jarring for me. It took me out of the storyline, and I did not like it. It gave me a headache to read. It was like car sickness reading. That sounds really awful because I like Matthew Stover, and I love a lot of his books. This is the one book that Matthew Stover wrote that I do not like. Now, I am in the big majority here. For people interested in EU, I am in the small majority. Excuse me, I'm in the small majority here. The big majority, vast majority, says this book is one of the greatest. I've seen it put on people's top books ever. Okay, that's how much they love Shatterpoint. And Shatterpoint, the title, tends to deal with a moment in time that if you do the right thing, at this moment, that's the precise moment that history will change one way or the other. And Mace has the uncanny ability to understand when the right point was. And he regrets not striking back during the Clone Wars Episode 2 movie at Count Dooku. If he would have finished off Count Dooku there, he thinks the Clone Wars would have ended. or everything would have been different. That was at Shatterpoint. And so that's the name of the title there. So that is neat. There's a lot of cool things within Shatterpoint. But just because I don't like it doesn't mean you shouldn't read it. You should always give it a try, folks. It doesn't matter if I dislike it or like it. I think every EU book should give a try because I'm always interested. I hated Red Harvest, Dawn of the Jedi, but anyone who wants to pick up for those books, and some of you did, that's fine. I'm totally fine with that. I don't think Shatterpoint was that good of a book. In fact, I hate to say it, folks, it's my 4th worst Star Wars book ever. That's how bad I don't like it. I knew about this, so a lot of times when y'all are asking about Shatterpoint, I stayed quiet for this reason, because to me, Shatterpoint was it was a missed opportunity. I really wanted something good on Mace Windu. I really felt like I got cheated. So much fan fiction has to deal in first person these days, and I was just vomiting anytime I read some fan fiction. It was like the Diary of Anakin on his thoughts on Padme or something like that. I was like, ugh. I don't want to read that garbage. It's easy to read. It's easy to write first person. Easy to write first person, and it seems like it's a crutch. I'm not saying Matthew Stover wrote it as a crutch. He probably did it on purpose. He probably really liked that. He wanted the balance. But for me, first person, not for me. It's why I can't read Ready Player One, a very popular book that I hear is fantastic. I suffered through 1.5 chapters of first person stuff. I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's too terrible for me. So right now you have seen my number 4th worst book within the expanded universe, but I want you to be the judge of that. Is it worse? Am I wrong? I know a lot of people are going to say I'm wrong in the comments, and that's totally fine. You're totally fine. I'm just giving my opinion on these. So let me see. I think I've done how many of my top 10 worst? You're getting to see a lot of my top 10 worst right now, because 3 was Dawn of the Jedi, and I think number 9 was Red Harvest. So this was number 4, and you'll get to see a few more as the weeks go by too. But anyway, sorry to say it, not that good. Now, folks who defend it, please defend it in the comments for people. Let you decide. Read it anyway, and you make the call. Do you agree with the vast majority that this is a great book, or do you agree with me and probably 2 other people on the internet that it's not? All right, folks. I'll see you next week with another video. We may want to turn him up. I think he passed out.